Jordan, we're going to start with you because Buffalo is the team this year that everybody's talking about heading into the deadline. They are clearly sellers. Obviously, this is not the season that Buffalo wanted to have. GM Kevin Adams has got a lot of work to do, and he's already done a little. He's moved Eric Stahl. Let me get your first reaction on the Eric Stahl trade. I think this has to be an obvious one that we all knew was coming, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially after that 18 game winning streak, it was quite clear that this team, even though they believed they were playoff contenders from the beginning of the season, they had to move on from this player. And they did acquire two assets, which was nice as we're seeing, as this is a buyer's market, right? So a lot of these players are going for a lot lower values this season than in a previous season. So they honestly did pretty well for themselves in that Eric Stahl trade.
So the return makes me wonder what's coming next, right? Because the big fish, I guess, out of Buffalo is Taylor Hall. Maybe he moves, maybe he doesn't. The recent talk is that he's probably more likely to move than stay. And not long ago, it was considered that it was maybe 50-50 that he was willing to re-sign with Buffalo. That may still be the case, but the talk and the chatter seems to be that Taylor Hall is going to go. So if you consider Eric Stahl's return and then you look at what Buffalo is asking for Hall, which we heard is a first-round pick, one, do you think they're going to get that? And two, do you think he moves before Monday?
Well, honestly, the Kyle Palmieri trade just happened yesterday, and we saw it took two NHL players just to recoup a first round pick. And Taylor Hall, as a rental, in my opinion, is probably only going to go for a second round pick and a middling prospect. He's had he just hasn't really had a great season. He's had a lot of historic lows in shooting percentage. He really hasn't been able to live up to his expected goals numbers. He's really had a tough season as a Sabre. It's quite evident too, just watching him play.
Two goals, not what anybody
Yeah.
thought was going to happen with Taylor Hall when he came there, right? Like, and Shane's shaking his head down there. I can see him. Like, the idea here was that Taylor Hall was going to come in, and I wouldn't want to say the savior, but like maybe put Buffalo in a conversation to be in the playoffs this year. And that combination between Eichel and Taylor Hall, it certainly hasn't worked out this year. My question for you is, do you know, or can you tell, or do you have any idea where Hall might go? I mean, with the Palmieri trade going to the Islanders, we had thought maybe the Islanders were a team that could have been in the running there. What's your take? Do you have any ideas on where you think he'll wind up?
This is a very fascinating situation to me. And honestly, the best fit for him as of right now is the Boston Bruins. And it does seem like they're the front runners to get him. Now, obviously, the cap space is the huge issue here. This could probably is going to have to be a third team involved, even with 50% of his salary retained, which would make his contract only $4 million for the remainder of this season. Boston really has a lot of troubles with five on five scoring, in terms of their expected goals, actual goals, high danger chances. They're ranked in the bottom third of the entire league in that category. And if you put them on a line with David Krejci, who they've been trying to find wingers for, that's what they acquired Rick Nash a couple of years ago. They tried doing that with Andre Kasha. I think Taylor Hall would really fit well on that team. And obviously there's others like the Vegas Golden Knights. The cap doesn't apply to them. I'm sure they can make
apparently.
it work. Colorado, Toronto is an interesting one too. We keep hearing them. I think Boston probably would be the most likely team to acquire him, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, we know they want secondary scoring, and it goes all the way back to his draft year, right? There was talk between him and Bobby Orr, his agent at the time, being interested in him going to Boston. I mean, we can trace that all the way back. So it wouldn't shock me at all. I'm just wondering, we'll talk about Boston in a second, just how much they're actually going to be buying this year. Like, I don't really know where they are. I'm not sure they even know necessarily what kind of a team they are. So it'll be very interesting to see. Last question for you regarding Buffalo. Do you see anybody else that we should be paying attention to, whether it's Sam Reinhart or Linus Allmark, or who else in Buffalo should we be watching heading into Monday?
I think it's going to be relatively quiet after the Hall trade. I think a guy like Toby Reeder could go for like a fifth or sixth round pick. And if the front office is really smart here, they should not be trading Linus Allmark. There are rumors there. And unless the price is astronomical and they can get a really good return, I say you keep your starting goaltender.
Well, we'll be interested to see how much Buffalo does. And it'd be interesting to see how much they can do, right? Like, we all think that they're going to be shopping a lot of pieces, even a Brandon Montour or something like that. We don't know. Like, it's just the cap, the flat cap, all this stuff. It could be a lot of talk and very little action.